Well, there's probably not a good reason for us to delay anymore. Mark, thanks a lot for coming. We appreciate you giving us a briefing. And we've tried to have these sessions with all ISPs that have their finger in Perry at this point, or want to get their finger into Perry. And we're certainly offering you the opportunity to tell us everything that you want to tell us about Axiom.
Okay, is that the introduction? Then I get to go?
Sure, why
Oh
not?
my gosh, freaking fantastic. Okay. So listen, I appreciate the opportunity and my apologies for having to delay our meeting. I felt bad about that. I had something personal come up that just I couldn't avoid. And as you all know, I think at this point, coming out of the pandemic, I have lots of evening Zoom meetings nowadays. So it is quite a different work style, and I'm working from home most of the time now. So I appreciate your patience and the opportunity. Couple things right off the bat from my perspective. Uh, I Axiom is super serious about doing expansion in um, in Washington County. And we are excited to be talking to a number of communities and working on a number of plans to expand Axiom's offerings. You may already know that Axiom is working on a federal grant that's going to expand us into Roque Bluff, south. And we also got a federal grant to expand up through East Machias and Whiting. So we are expanding our fiber footprint, substantially, I guess, not outrageously, but substantially, in the southern part of Washington. I call it the southern part. You guys call it whatever you want, but I call it the southern part of Washington County. As you also probably are aware, we've been working very closely with the town of Lubec, and we unfortunately were not awarded in the last round, but I think we're working on some processes, and I'm sure your next door neighbor, I think next door neighbor Charlotte, also experienced that same sting of rejection in the last round. So there's some lessons there from my perspective for Perry, because I'm not exactly sure, but I didn't go look very closely, but you may be. I don't know if other providers have told. If you've been on with CCI assume they've told you that they probably have some plans for you through RDOF or some other means that I thought was going to affect Perry in some way. I'm not 100% sure about that, and you can confirm or deny. I don't not bothered by it, but I would just say that
We can confirm that.
yeah, you can confirm that. Yeah, I figured that is going to potentially hurt your chances at a grant level at the state if you decide to go in a different direction, because I assume CCI will continue with their plans to serve at least part of your community through that RDOF funds or whatever way. And it is RDOF, right? That they're
Yes, it is RDOF, and they showed us the map of the parts of Perry that would be affected by that. Um,
yeah.
I think I haven't seen the Charlotte map, but quite frankly, the fraction of Perry that's in play here is certainly considerably less than 40%.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured that would be, and I'll speak a little bit about the negatives and the positives. So from my perspective, and then I'll talk a little bit about Axiom. So give me a couple few more minutes here, and just to say, because of that RDOF money, that sits on the FCC mapping, right? And because it sits on the FCC mapping, it is an area that will be disallowed for funding from the state ultimately, right? So in my model, what actually, and this is what happened in Lubec. Lubec was a perfectly fine and previously would have gotten funded slam dunk. But given two things, the competitiveness of the grant round, which you will experience if you are going to go to the next grant round, very competitive, and some of the areas that they considered served in the town, that they just did not rise to the top for funding, as did Charlotte. Same issue with Charlotte. So even though Charlotte is well deserving of getting funding, so in the case of Perry, I think you're in the same place, relatively speaking. It's going to be a challenge, but I think it is achievable under my model. And so Axiom's model, as you're probably been aware of, or maybe you aren't, but is very simply for us to offer a private ownership model where Perry would own the assets, the town would own the assets, and Axiom would operate under a long-term contract to take care of those assets and to help do everything soup to nuts as an ISP would, but with the added support or relationship with the town, which I think leads to a much better relationship over time, because the town now has leverage over the ISP and can bring, certain or require certain things to be done on behalf of the townspeople. And because we are sort of we're a small company and open to these kinds of relationships, we can work with the town to try to meet their goals as far as pricing, as far as a variety of things. So ACP, low income discounts, a variety of things that we work with every individual town that we've contracted with. So we do bring, I think, a different, somewhat unique kind of approach. And in that relationship, we ask the town typically through municipal bonding, to pay for the match when we go to the grant round. That the town puts that money up, and then it gets repaid through a revenue return from subscribers back to the town from Axiom. So, for example, if you were to, so $1 million I'm just making this up just to scare everybody, but anyway, $1 million, right, borrow at municipal bond is about somewhere between, I don't know, $60,000-$70,000 a year in payments, just round numbers. Could be a little bit more now because it's got price of money's gotten a little bit more expensive, as you know. So, but let's call it that. That payment every year, I would do a calculation and we would return a certain percentage or a certain amount per subscriber back to the town to cover that payment. So there would be no taxpayer dollars used in my model. It's fairly unique. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Chris can already attest to this. He and I have sat down together. He knows what kind of person I am. So, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I am serious about helping Maine and about helping rural Maine. So I have, under this model that I just described, and it's just the basic bare bones of it, and you certainly can ask questions, but under the model I just described, I have now currently 12 towns under this model that I have already built. I built 2. I'm on my 3rd now in Georgetown, building out Georgetown, Maine, down in mid-southern Maine, and I have 8 or 10 after that are going to get built over the next year or 2, all funded by federal or state monies at somewhere between 50 and 70% of grant money. Sometimes a little bit more than that, 75%. I think the latest one, Vienna, is almost closer to 80% that just got funded in the last round. And all of them are using some type of municipal borrowing. They provided the match. in the grant applications. And I have created a model for all of them where that grant, pardon me, those loans, that municipal bond will get paid back by subscribers as we start to build out the project. So we have, so Axiom's not your old Axiom. If some of you are used to Axiom being a wireless company in Washington County, we are very quickly becoming a fiber to the home company and very slowly retiring all of our wireless, and we're almost out of all of our DSL right now, DSL service in Washington County. It's almost all gone. So as I mentioned earlier, the fiber projects in Roque Bluffs and in East Machias and Whiting took out a whole bunch of our DSL and replaced a bunch of our wireless also, or is going to replace a bunch of our wireless for our subscribers there. So we're basically offering world-class service in the places where we provide this type of service, this kind of fiber service. It's basically 10 gig over 10 gig ready from day one. And we most often work to provide the service for the full town. We have not done a partial town build yet. And there's some reasons for that, not because we don't want to do that, but because towns often feel politically they can't do that because it's sort of perpetuating the problem you already have, right? Where you have multiple providers only serving parts of the town, and people get different levels of service and different pricing, and it's just kind of stinks. And we like to just overlay a full fiber network. But there are some complications with doing that, given your the RDOF funds and some other things that you've got, that the RDOF funding that's coming to serve a piece of your town, but still potentially achievable. From my perspective, we'd have to do quite a bit more due diligence on my end to put together typically what we do is put together an estimated build cost for the town, and then we would follow that up with typically a 5-year pro forma, which is a fancy word for a revenue and expense model for 5 years, and using specific numbers from the town, number of homes, et cetera, number of seasonal homes, if you know that, those kinds of things. We are generally happy to do that with towns who want to work with us. So we'd be happy to consider getting in more, doing more with you as we move forward. But generally speaking, that's the bottom line. That's who we are as a company right now. That's the way we are trying to work with towns. I have been, okay. So let me see, you gave me the floor, so now I'm going to talk. And so, anyway, one more thing. So the other option for you, and I'm not quite there yet, but I have put a plan together that gets me through Trescott and Edmonds, privately funded, to build out up from my current fiber network up right through to Edmonds. So you're not that far away from what I'm already planning on, and so this could be a privately owned network by Axiom that serves a piece of the town, right? The piece of the town that's not served. I don't know if you're interested in that. I don't know if I could get that done this year, because I need a pretty significant capital investment to make that happen from my perspective, which I'm working on. But we could own the network and really absolve the town of all risk from that perspective. If you would like to go down that route, we're happy to discuss. Again, we're not everybody's cup of tea, and I've started to offer that to some towns who feel like they just are not prepared to own the network, even though there's very little that the town will have to do. There is it is something that towns aren't used to doing. right? Especially small rural towns. So you have to be on board, and you have to get your select board on board to make that happen. So, but that's a possibility, is to do something privately, which we would absolutely consider if you would like us to consider that. I wish my dog was here because I saw your cat. Usually I have two behind me. So anyway,
Sorry about that. He wanted to be seen, I
don't,
guess.
don't be sorry. I love it. I love it. I work from home, and I'm surprised the dogs aren't barking right now. So, or my wife screaming at me about something about dinner. So, um, so anyway, super excited. We're super serious company, and hey, listen, I'm happy to continue conversations or answer questions, or again, if you'd like to do something more deeply with me, I could probably send you at least an outline of what the Axiom model looks like. That's not specific to Perry, but just a general sort of couple of pages that say this is how we would operate in a public ownership model, and this is what the responsibilities of the town are. This is what the responsibilities of Axiom are. This is how it would work. And I'm happy to give you, I mean, just locally, you have, I think you'd be comfortable, calling over to Roque Bluffs and what we're doing there, or or some of the other projects that we're working on. I'm sure I can get people to talk to you about their experience with Axiom, should you so choose to go down that road also, and just get an idea of how we work. That's it for right now.
Okay, well, thanks for that. There are a lot of questions that do go with this. Are you do you have an idea how much of a build it is for Perry?
No is the real answer, but I can give you a ballpark in my mind what I think it would be. I would think it's going to be at least $2 million to build Perry.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, in our back pocket, we have another estimate, and it's about 2.5 million.
Yeah, I figured that's where you probably end up, two, a little over two, most likely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we have the mileage of the roads and everything else that we have in town here. It's about 33 miles, Mark.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include the other mileage that you have to go through to get to the house itself.
Right.
Now, you did when you mentioned fiber to the home, do you really just mean what MCA means, or do you mean actually fiber to the premise itself?
Fiber to the premise.
Okay.
Yeah, to the home.
To the home itself.
Fiber all the way. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And from my perspective, it would mean, depending on how you the town think about this, we're talking about every single home.
Right.
And that means every single home. That doesn't mean except the 50 that are the most expensive. It means every single home. That's the only way we work. Typically, somebody raises their hand after the second or third meeting and tells me about their 2 miles of off the grid location. And are you really saying I'll get a free install down this 2 miles of off the grid location? And the answer is yes. Yes, you will. If you sign up for service, we will deliver service to you. But we will only do it in 3 ways before it starts to cost you. One is aerially. If you have poles, we will license them and bring it to you. No problem. If you have a clean conduit underground, we will run the fiber through the conduit. If you do not have a clean conduit, or you are off the grid, we will put it on the ground and bring it to you on the ground from the nearest pole 2 miles away, all the way through the woods, if you own the land, of course, all the way through the woods to your house. And then you can decide what you want to do with that cable. That's on you. Once we put it on the ground, it's on you to bury it or not bury it. All of our cabling is rated to be on the ground, in the ground, or aerial. So, and we've had good success with very difficult solutions like that. in very difficult places. So we have a whole network on the ground on Cliff Island. We have a good little portion of on the ground in Cranberry Isles, and we have a few difficult situations in Georgetown. Usually in a town your size, there's probably 5 to 10 really challenging situations that we'd have to work through. And at worst case, we give them a wireless solution. If we can't get there with the fiber itself, we try to determine if there's a line of sight somewhere. We get it so far and then, shoot it wirelessly to your house. So we've done a whole bunch of different solutions for different situations. And we work with every individual homeowner in a unique way, right, to try to meet their goals. So we're capable of doing all of those things. We're still a wireless company, so we understand wireless very, very well, and we've now become a fiber company, so we understand that side of the business also.
No, excuse me. Am I right in assuming that what you're talking about for Perry, though, is really a fiber solution, right?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
100%. I only mentioned wireless for a very unique, difficult situation where you just couldn't get the fiber run to them.
Mhm.
And I only reason I mention it is because I have an off the grid 2-3 miles, no poles in Georgetown, and the only way to get them fiber would be to come through a marsh, which is environmentally protected. And I was like, no, I can't do that. I cannot do that. The only way I can get you service is a wireless solution from the house that you can see across that little bay marsh. That's the only way. So it's very, very unique. And so, no, the idea is to get everybody a fiber solution, 100%, no copper.
Mark, what's some of the risk associated with the town owning the network, please?
Yeah. So there are two big risks that, from my perspective, well, big. There are two risks. One is that we do not meet the take rate. We do not meet the take rate that we've modeled, right? So the revenue coming from subscribers is less than we anticipate, and that doesn't cover the full cost of the bonding or the borrowing that the town has to do. That's number one. I've never had that happen. I don't anticipate it would happen in Perry. I think we would have outrageously good take rates in Perry. I don't see any issue with that. Every town is skeptical that I will meet my take rates, and I always do. And I see no problem in meeting them in Perry. That's number one. That's one risk. The second is that the town is taking on the ownership of the mainline fiber. So in a catastrophic event, the town should be holding some level of insurance to take care of that catastrophic event. And there's a cost to that. And we typically work through our modeling to cover that cost for subscribers too. So that's the second sort of nervousness that comes from towns. Like they are responsible for the mainline fiber. Axiom on our dime takes care of everything from the pole to the home on our dime. Every drop is our responsibility, even though you own it. And all of the material and equipment inside the person's home is on us. Again, even though you would own the network soup to nuts, we would be responsible for any drop issues or in the home issues. So what the town would be responsible for is what I would call the mainline fiber that runs along the main roads. And in that situation, you would have something happen like this. For example, you would have a drunk driver take out a pole and the fiber would fall to the ground. And we would then go and put it up on behalf of the town. But whatever that bill would be would come to the town. come to the town either through insurance or through a self-insurance or building up some funds in the town to pay for that fix.
What about keeping the tree line back? I mean, I guess the power companies are usually responsible for that, so it wouldn't be an issue with the town, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as far as Perry dealing with RDOF, I guess that what I'm seeing is there is an advantage in the eyes of the MCA if the town owns the network. Does that give us a little bit of an upper hand?
They claim they do. It didn't work out in the last round. I had two of my projects not get funded, and I think Charlotte was a Down East Broadband project that didn't get funded either, which would have been, I guess, publicly owned, right, in its own way through the utility. So if that, I can't remember if that was really the case there, but anyway, that's so. I am working closely with the state, and I do believe that they found that this was one of the flaws in their formulas last time, that the publicly owned projects were not taken fully into account, especially ones that had partially served areas or areas that they had to carve out as served. So I think that will get fixed, and I think you will be advantaged if you are publicly owned in the next round, but it did not occur in this round. And I can't tell you for sure it will happen in the next round, but I can tell you they are looking at it, they are working on it, and I'm working very closely with the hold on one moment, please. 1 second.
Do we have a JetBlue True Blue number?
No. Goodbye. I'm on the phone. All right. All right. Sorry. Apologies. See, I told you, my wife, I see something was going to happen in this call. My apologies. So, oh my gosh, now I lost my thought where I was. I'm sorry. But yeah, so ultimately, I think that the funding round, this next funding round, is going to give towns like you, if you are publicly owned, more advantage than in the last round. How much is unclear. I'll leave it at that at the moment. The rules haven't come out. They're expecting a funding round, and I'm sure some of you may already know this, in late summer, early fall, maybe, I don't know, somewhere in that range. So, and it's $20 million. The next round will be about $20 million. It could be a little bit more, but I'm guessing that's what it's going to be. And I would expect it to be highly competitive.
Well, that's not very much money, Mark.
It's not. No, it's not. And then you would have to wait for BEAD money, BEAD, the BEAD money, which is about 240 million, which should be coming on the heels of that next round that the state is working on now and looking to get that money downloaded into the state. But I'm expecting that early 2024. Now, to be fair, I put in 4 projects in the last round of 70 million, and I got 2 of the 4 projects. In the round before that, there were 8 awards. I got 4 of them in the round before that with Connect Maine. So I've had a very high success rate. This was the first round where I didn't have one, where I had projects denied. The first round that I had projects denied was the last round. So, or not make the cut, I should say. They weren't denied. They've told us we did everything right, that there was nothing wrong with our applications. There were just places that were less served. And that's what they prioritized in the last round. Least served. 25 over 3 or less.
And Mark, is it fair to say that part of that too is just it's getting so much more competitive now? There's just more people vying for the same sort of bucket.
Yep. And we're talking about out-of-state companies, a bunch of weird sort of things going on, and it's going to continue that way. I think, so, we're a known entity. We're very successful. We've been very successful both at the federal level, directly at federal level with Reconnect. We received 4 projects in Reconnect. We were at NTIA. So we received several projects with 3 projects with NTIA directly. We were cool and connected out on one of the islands way back when. So we were at also a USDA program. So we've been successful that way. And we've also been successful directly at the state with Connect Me. Before this, Connect Me, and now with MCA, we were awarded two projects in the last round. So, you know, we work hard at it. We're pretty good. And I write all of them myself, frankly. So I don't delegate any of that out. You know, with Axiom, you get me, you know, I'm the CEO of the company, you know, and we're a small company, so you get to deal with us directly, you know, all the top people in my office. So there's that. And we sit in Machias. We'd like to not embarrass you or us. You know, so we'd like to do well by Washington County. It is my next focus. I really like to do a lot more in Washington County. I think it's deserving. And we were just, as I said, we had just got a planning grant for Edmonds and Trescott, which I've been obsessed about for a couple of years now, trying to help them. So we're working. The county gave us a grant to do the planning there, to do some of the things I just mentioned, to put together a pricing matrix for them and and do some modeling for them. So I'm working on finishing. I'm working on that now for those 2 projects, and I just priced out Jonesboro, and Jonesport called me the other day asking what I could bring to the table for them. And so, you know, also did something, and I also priced out Northfield because I'd like to bring service up that way. So I'm coming, but you're a ways away. I'm getting there. And we can do something one-off right in your town. We don't need to be connected to our main, by the way. We don't need to be connected to our fiber plant down in Machias. It's perfectly fine. We do individual projects all over the state. So it's not a matter of whether or not we have plant in or facilities in your town at all. We can make something happen if you want to work with us. And again, I'm comfortable with you not wanting to work with us. We're not everybody's cup of tea. And if there's anything at all I can do to try to help Perry move forward, I'm happy to do it. So, you know, always available to help Washington County towns for sure. At any level, with anything. Ask me a question, I'll try to answer it. So, you know.
Can you give me a ballpark estimate for 100 by 100 service to a residence in Perry?
$59.99.
Okay.
$59.99 for 100 over 100, $64.99 for 250 over 250, and $109.99 for 500 over 500. And then we do offer a gig. It's usually $129 or $139 at the moment. We're pretty competitive at the lower rates, especially with Consolidated Sphidium. But I understand that they will give you a first year discount, which I hate. I don't do any of that BS. Sorry, I have an opinion about Consolidate. Sorry, apologies. I don't like Spectrum much either, but you know, hey, we're all just friends here. But yeah, that's our typical pricing. We can work with you on that. Some towns have bought that down a little bit. Like we gave the towns a little bit of less return back to the town, and we brought the price down to try to get a little bit more competitive in the town size. You know, so we're happy to do that. Work with you on that pricing and such, but that's generally what I gave you is generally what across the towns that I'm working, that's what we're offering.
Okay. Well, we did a survey of the town a few weeks ago, and I think there's a significant fraction of the town that, well, first of all, about 90% of the town is unhappy with their internet service for a whole variety of reasons. So, you know, we're starting with the mindset in the right place there. And quite frankly, with the distribution of services that they have now, I think that the number of people that would want to join into this effort, if we can ever make it happen, would be pretty good. But I'm curious what to you is a good take rate? Is it 50%, 35%?
No, 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 no. I mean, we would want to approach somewhere in the 70s, 65, 70%. We would expect at least a 50% take rate in pre-installation deposits. So typically how we work with the town is once the project is moving forward, before we actually build, we start to market, right? Start to talk to people and get pre-installation subscriptions. So for example, in Georgetown, right now we're building it out. We had over 60% of the town signed up before we even put a stake in the ground. And now we're up to just under 70%. And we still have about a month to build out. So what I expect we'll hit 70% by the time, while we're there. And all of my projects so far are in the 60s, 70% range, 70% range. So I think you'd have a little bit of a lag. Well, you won't have a lag. I think you would, if you beat RDOF, which I suspect you would, because I don't think they're going to build RDOF for several years, but they probably have told you differently. I don't buy it. I think it's going to be several years. If you beat them, you would easily have a 70% take rate in your town. Easy. You have stinky service. I know this. It's not good. And so I just think that we'd be wildly successful. And by the way, we typically take, when I say I have about 1,000 customers right now waiting for service in various towns that they've already signed up. I just started taking subscribers on Isle of Ho, and I'm almost up to 100 subscribers there, and there's 140 homes on the island, for example. And we're competing against TDS there. TDS is like a sister to Consolidate. It offers the same kind of service, relatively different company, but same kind of service. So that's, for example, there we're going to be well over 60, 70% there easily before we build. And here I would imagine that would be the same thing. We'd be in the 60, 70% range, probably 50% before we even start building, pretty easily. I don't see much of an issue. We could model at any different level that you'd like. We model at, we start at some towns it depends, but we could start at 50% and work, 60, 70, 80. We could just model it, whatever makes sense from you guys' perspective. But I would think we would be modeling at 60% and expecting 70% take rate by the time the project is completely built. And we typically, I meant to mention, by the way, those pre-subscribers all have given us $99, just so you know. It's not just people signing on a piece of paper. It's like money where your mouth is. So we expect some kind of deposit. We give it back to the customer in their first bill. So it's not like we keep the deposit. Some towns have asked to keep the deposit. So in one of the towns we're working in, the town of Washington, they're charging a $60 deposit. We worked with them. They asked for a level of deposit that was less than $99. And so we came up with $60, and they're going to keep that, and they're going to use that to help defray the first year cost of their insurance. So in that town, they're keeping the deposit. In Georgetown, we returned the Georgetown, they also kept the deposits at $99. But in other towns, we just give it back to the customer. It's just really a proxy for the town to be comfortable in understanding that the take rate is really going to happen, that the people who say they're going to subscribe are going to subscribe. Because once you have money exchange, it's a pretty good indication that they're on board. And it's a much stronger indication than them just signing a petition at the town office, for example. So we work pretty closely with the towns that way. Yeah, so I don't know, let's say 900 people, right? Something like that in your town, I'm guessing.
800.
So 350 homes, something like that, something in that range.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we also work at that level, small, which is quite small, by the way. But we work at that level all the time. Like I just told you, Isle of Ho is 140 homes. We work with, Rope Bluffs is about 250 homes that we're working with there. So, we like to work with small towns.
Okay.
We think I probably am pretty comfortable I could make the numbers work, but I'd have to look at it very closely from my perspective.
Mark, we have Spectrum, Consolidated, I think it's Trail Runner, not to mention the occasional Starlink.
Yeah.
You're dealing with that competition, and with a take rate of 60-70%, that seems to me like that's a challenge.
Aggressive. Yeah. I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me. How much spectrum do you have?
I don't know.
They claim to cover 40 to 50% of the town.
Okay. So I would then maybe downgrade my assessment and say would probably be closer to 50% take rate, because you would blend the first year of spectrum would probably be in the 35 to 40% range. A lot of people don't like spectrum, but it's sticky. It's hard for them to give up their clicker and the television. So you'd have a reduced take rate there, but every place else you would have very strong take rate. Trail Runner's nothing. That's nothing. And Consolidated's lousy. I don't see any issues with any of those. We compete against them all the time. No problems.
Okay.
But to your point, thank you for saying so, because I agree with you that spectrum will definitely reduce take rate in their area for sure. It will take a while. We will get them. We will get there, but it will start at somewhere between 35 and 40% typically for us when we are competing in a spectrum area, to your point. So yes, agreed. A little bit less than what I was suggesting. I forgot that you had spectrum in your town. Thank you for reminding me.
Is 35%?
Not in my part of town.
Oh. Mine either. In fact, I asked them to run a cable to my house, and they said, "Oh yeah, we'd be happy to do that for $10,000."
Is that it? Oh, lucky you. That's cheap. Good job.
Yeah, they told me 55,000.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
Unreal.
I think that what's happening with first, cable television is dead. I don't know if everybody knows that, because I'm an old guy, so I believe but my son will never ever have a cable television package ever in his life. It will just not happen. We are the top 10 cable companies are losing hundreds of thousands of customers a year to streaming, and what fiber does is allow you to stream. So it allows you to cut cost and to curate your viewing to exactly what you want, and not the 70, 80 channels that you have that are QVC before you get to the 10 that you really want to watch, right? And with streaming now, you have, the big hump for me was regional sports, right? We're a big Bruins, Red Sox, Celtics fans, so we need to have NESN, right, or whatever it's called now. But I called it NESN. We needed to have that. So that once that and we want local, and we wanted local news. Both of those things are now achievable. So on streaming, so it really allows people to cut the cord and save money. And everything's going to be delivered through one pipe. That's what fiber allows. Your telephone, your entertainment content, and your internet, all through the fiber. So it's an elegant solution, and it's where the world is going. So eventually the spectrum model is breaking.
Mark, do you offer any TV services with Axiom?
No, what we do is we have a pretty extensive educational tool that says this is how you would stream, this is how you would save money, and these are the options available to you. That's what we typically do. We don't offer a television. We do offer phone. We tell you not to take it from us. Don't take it from us. It's too expensive. You can get it cheaper right online if you want. I think we're charging $24.99 all in for phone service. That's continental United States, local and continental United States. We don't allow for international calling. You can use a card, international calling card. You can use VoIP to do that, but
Even Canada?
Yeah, I believe so. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But I believe, but you can use your cell phone with a fiber connection and call anywhere in the United States using your cell phone, using your connection in your home, even if you have bad cell service. So you don't really need a home phone anymore, relatively speaking. But we offer it, and we'll try to talk you out of it, and then you can take it from us if you like. No problem. We don't make any money on it. We basically, it's a pass through for us. We do it as a courtesy, just for questions like Chris asked.
You're not in charge of the take rate with that salesman mentality, are you?
No, I'm not at all. No, we prefer that you don't take it. We think you can do it cheaper. You know, go look at you know, Magic Jack or Oof, you know, there's a number of Cricket, whatever. There's a number of options out there that are less expensive than what we charge that gives you great service. So, you know, we have to cover our costs. So that's why I charge what I charge. But, you know, it's all in $24.99. It's not bad. It's cheap, relatively inexpensive, but you can do better if you really dig. But we offer it. We have VoIP customers in our fiber networks. No problem. No problem.
Mark, is there any example? I mean, I know this is a fairly new concept, but is there any one that we can learn from any towns that owning the network didn't really work for them? Maybe there's some lessons to be learned from that.
Well, I can only offer up my experiences with the towns that I've worked with, and I would offer them up to you as, you know, a courtesy that you could call them and they could talk to you through their experience. In Georgetown, as an example, they were surprised at some additional costs that came up during the construction period. It cost them a lot of money, more than what we had thought it would cost them. That hurt their budget. They also have struggled with some of the insurance and the cost for insurance. They've struggled with that. So they are happy with the network, and it's operating, and it's going to be fully built, and people are excited about it. But there are some ongoing concerns. And this is directly related to what's happening in the state with Consolidated's as the pole licensor, the pole license administrator in our state. The rules keep changing. And so we keep running up to the PUC to ask for relief. So a lot of the issues that I'm describing that have been challenges are being mitigated through the PUC now, and changes I think are coming, and it's going to be a lot more predictable for towns moving forward from that perspective. But those are the challenging issues. Somerville will talk to you about what they've gone through. They've really had a challenge with CCI getting through the pole make ready process, and they can talk to you about that. But from a delivery standpoint, once you have fiber, it's pretty good. It works. And no town that I've been in has had a catastrophic issue like one of you is going to bring up ice storm. If we talk for 15 more minutes, somebody's going to say something about it, the ice storm of 78 and how everything went down. We haven't experienced anything like that. Towns have asked about what would happen in a catastrophic event, like literally a catastrophic event where a bunch of the town lines went down, the utility poles went down because of ice storm or something else. They have gotten assurances from Maine Municipal Association that those kinds of catastrophic events would be covered by a FEMA declaration, because it is town infrastructure, just like a building.
And Mark, has there been much more clarity on like where does that demarcation stop for being a covered entity? Like, does it have to be the town? Does a utility model where it's more of a collaborative? Will that apply? Like, do we know where that's going to start and stop?
We've been trying to know. So far, the issue has been at the town. Like, I tried to substitute our insurance on behalf of the town because we have the level of insurance required from Consolidated, of course, because we've been operating for 20 years. And CMP stopped us at the PUC. At the PUC, they stopped us from being able to offer. I don't think it's the last word yet. Those are the kinds of issues that are still working their way through. And MCA has, the main connectivity authority has somebody specifically helping work on these issues. So there's those kinds of things. There's also, there's the 880 rules where if you're publicly owned, you're supposed to not have to pay for make ready. Those have been challenged. They're working their way through a PUC challenge now, but I think those are going to go to be litigated. I think the 880 rules are going to go to court, and the state is going to have to defend those. So there are some things going on to try to help communities, but we've not had as much success as we had hoped with some of these items. It seems like a pretty straightforward thing where the operator on behalf of the town let us use our insurance. What is wrong with that? We have it. Why don't we just use it? Why are you making us have duplicate insurance? Seems like a simple thing, but it's been a challenge at the PUC to get those rules changed. So there are some items that we've been trying to be helpful with, but so far it hasn't worked out. Ongoing though, ongoing. I'll be on the phone with MCA on a number of these items over the next month, and they're pulling together a group of folks like me to talk about the challenges with community broadband in the next month or so.
Well, good luck on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am happy to provide a list of. You can also look at online for some of the horror stories for community broadband. Most of them are old, and most of them are in big cities. So there are a lot of success stories in community-owned broadband, and they've increased over time, not decreased. But to your point, somebody's going to ask what the problems are, and there's some lessons learned that we're trying to mitigate now through some of the processes.
If we get to a point where you get deposits from the residents of Perry, how long before the install? Just an estimate.
So full project built, from standing still, you get the grant, 8 months of make ready, minimal, 8 months. So nothing gets built, and then probably 3 months of build, maybe 2. You're very small, maybe 2 months, 3 months build at most. So the deposit would come somewhere in that 8-month period, and then let's call it 6 months later, 5 months later, 4 months later, you would then have your install happen and you would start to get service.
So what I guess what's time consuming in the challenge is preparing for a grant, basically getting all the information that we can to provide to the residents. But once those are all in place, it seems a company like yourself, it doesn't take you very long to take care of business.
No, that's right. I mean, the portion of the delay is out of our control, right? The poles have to be made ready. That's why they call it made ready to put a new cable up. But I think those processes are going to have to necessarily get shorter. As we've been talking through some of the challenges that are going up to the Public Utilities Commission, because they oversee the utility that CCI's process and of course CMP or Versant in your case. So I think you're Versant, right? You should be Versant. as a electrical.
Correct. Yeah, that's
company.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Eastern Maine, also part of the community
oh,
is
is
Eastern
Eastern
Maine.
Maine? Yeah, I was gonna say, is Eastern Maine too? Yeah, so, but those processes are getting shorter, not longer. I think they will get shorter because the pressure is on them to execute much more quickly than they have previously to allow the service to go in faster. So from a build standpoint, it doesn't take us very long. And we work with a particular provider that helps us with the construction, but we're happy to work with other providers of construction too that work alongside with us so that we can do the work much more quickly. It won't take long. Pretty easy peasy. Your issue is I assume I haven't driven through, all of your town, obviously, but you must be pretty spread out, right? Once you get off the beaten path, things are pretty spread out. So we just have to work through that, but it's still running the lines is not, they do about, how many miles? You said 33 miles?
Yep.
They do about 8 miles a week of mainline construction.
Mhm.
So, not that long. Then you have to do the drops, you have to do the splicing, you have to, put the CO in central office and all that, but all that happens generally at the same time. Not that, pretty fast. I think we're gonna build, they told me they'd build a Rouseck about the same size town as you in less than 2 months. But my partner, the partner, because we're gonna build in a Rouseck this month. This year. It's starting in the next month or two. Yep. Listen, and we'd be happy to have a follow-up call with you, and I'm happy to provide a little bit of documentation if you want to do that, or have like I said, have a more intensive conversation about the model and how it really works and all of that, or to provide contacts for you in some of the other towns. No issues from my perspective. Whatever you need, if you want to vet us a little bit at Axiom, it's not a problem. You should talk to Lubec. I've been working with them. They can tell you their disappointment and you can talk to them about how I've been in their town. I'm a fun guy, so I like to have fun. So I'm not a Debbie Downer. So I only like to work with towns that I like to have fun and do stuff. And but I'm also super serious about my business. So, I'm always joking around and having a fun time, but we want to help rural Maine grow. And I'm telling you, you must have fiber. There is no other choice. You have to have fiber. That's the only way you're going to survive, relatively speaking, from a communication standpoint. You'll be left behind if you don't have that at every location. You'll be disadvantaged. Your community will be disadvantaged. How many seasonal people do you have? Do you have seasonal?
Apparently not very many.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. But I was just asking. Yeah, a few. Yeah.
Elaine, is that right?
She's
Hold
making-
on, I was just, no, I'm here. I was just getting ready to check census information. So if you can bear with me, I will check that.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we've got 800 people, about 450 homes.
And Mark, you said you do the grants. You do that yourself. You don't delegate that, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, really what I asked the town to do is only one thing, and that is to help with the narrative, right? The why are we doing this kind of thing? Because I really want an authentic voice from the town itself in that portion of the grant. But everything else, I provide all of the pricing, all of the breakdown. I provide all of the unfortunately, the state requires a 10-year pro forma. It's ridiculous, but they do. So I provide all of that, data enter all of that, all of the technology, location of the central office equipment, all detailed, down to the nut and bolt kind of thing. I put that, yeah, that's I provide all of that for the application, and then I make all the numbers work to make sure everything comes out. And yeah, so yeah, I do a lot of pretty serious work on behalf of the towns typically.
Have you attended many town meetings? Because you seem like you would be a very energetic and a good spokesperson to have.
Yes, I do a lot of town meetings. Let's be fair. I've had it both ways. I've actually gotten absolutely crucified in a couple of towns. Just absolutely from the first moment I opened my mouth, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm dead. I'm dead already." So I've had that happen. I've had that experience. By the way, one of those towns that crucified me, I'm now delivering service. We have a grant, and I'm putting fiber to them. So I stuck with them even after the haters hated me. I stuck with them, and they came back to me, and we are building fiber there. So to be fair to to who I am, it was kind of an interesting. So I've had it both ways, but I've been to a lot of town meetings, and been had the opportunity to talk to a lot of townspeople. It's fun. I like it. I understand. I have a little bit of a unique set of skills. I come from an economic development background. So I've worked at the state and federal level. So I understand state politics, federal programs, state programs, and I also have worked locally. So I understand really the politics of towns pretty well. So I get around pretty good, and I can, I usually can maneuver pretty well in those kinds of situations. But like I said, I've had my fair share of having to couple of times having to lick my wounds coming out of a town meeting. But yeah, they're fun. They're good. They're good to go to. I can tell you, I had tears in my eyes in Vienna, which is my latest town that I'm gonna we just got a grant for. I went to their town meeting. It was the largest town meeting they've had in 30 years, I think they told me. There were over 100 people there. And they voted on providing the $2 million, I can't remember, is that right? No, $600,000 match. They voted on that in less than 3 minutes. They opened up the meeting, they voted on it, everybody went yay, put their hands down. It was 100 and something to 0. I mean, it was amazing on a Saturday morning. Fantastic experience. What an experience. Fantastic. So I've had that. I just recently had that experience in the last few months. So it's fun. It's fun when that happens. But they did their legwork. I don't know how deeply one of the places that do well typically are able to get their select board on board. So, those places do better than those who don't. In Shabig Island, they couldn't get that. This is where I got massacred. In Shabig Island, I got massacred, but the townspeople uprose and said to the select board, "We're going to vote you out. We're going to have a special town meeting, and we're going to get broadband." And so they acquiesced, and that's how I'm delivering broadband there. They had a public uprising because they have lousy service out there. So but I do think that working with your select board is important. We do it all the time. Axiom does it all the time. Super important.
We agree.
Okay, I just checked, excuse me, and about 11% of Perry is seasonal.
Yeah, 45 homes out of 450, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In some places, just so you know, we offer sort of a unique seasonal approach than other companies. We we believe in the local residents, and we believe that the local residents should not carry the burden of the seasonal customers, that it should be the opposite. So our seasonal rates are built on the year-round rates, and we give them a 15% discount off the year-round rate, and they must take service from, well, they don't have to use it, but they take service from May 1 to November 1. So you get your service for 6 months. You pay annually before the season starts, And if you do that, you get a 15% discount off of what the year-round rate would be. As opposed to you being able, as a seasonal customer, to pick and choose the month that you're there or the 2 months that you're there for service and then not taking service the rest of the year. We don't think that's fair because the rest of the community is now paid for that service, because it costs just as much to run that line past that seasonal customer as it does for a year-round resident. So we don't think that's fair. So we like to put a little bit more burden on the seasonal customers to support the project. Not much, but a little bit more. That's a typical situation for, I know it's complicated, sorry. I can explain it a little bit more fully, but anyway, just FYI. That's how we deal with seasonals typically in our communities that we work with.
Any other questions from the committee? Well, I appreciate everything that you said to us, Mark, and we reserve the right to send you some questions after we've had some discussions and so on and so forth. I don't know if we need any more textual material, but we may change our mind and say, hey, Mark, we need to know something more about this or that.
No worries. Whatever I can do to help moving forward, and I hope you pick your right partner, and I hope you're successful. So I'm looking forward to watching you do your thing, whether it's with me or somebody else. Really, good luck. Appreciate your efforts.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, you be well. All right, good. Take care.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah,
See you.
real pleasure. Bye, Elaine. See ya, Chris. Take care.
I think we're going to need to talk about this a little bit because some of the descriptions he made went by so fast that I didn't even have a chance to take good notes on them. Luckily, we do have this recorded, so I'm going to record.
I'm on page 5 notes.
I think he's genuine. I think he's legit. As far as his intentions. So it was interesting. That was a good presentation.
I agree.
You have any comments, Chris?
No, I think it's really interesting what the different models are shaping up from all the different ISPs and potential partners. And obviously I know Mark, outside of Eastport and things. The Axiom especially, I think, is adapting to this market pretty rapidly, being pretty creative. Which is something that Mark's, kind of known for. He's been very successful with what they've done with Axiom, and I think sometimes it's just because he's a bright guy. So it's curious. Some of that, I'm like, okay, I don't know how that would work. Let me think about it. We're gonna have to, if it's something you're interested in, there'd definitely be a deeper dive you would want to do into what that model looks like, whatever it may be.
Right.
But it's certainly interesting.
Right.
I know in Machias, there's a large group of Spectrum customers, and I guess the challenge is Axiom can provide the service, but Spectrum, when they throw in all those channels and make it convenient for especially senior citizens, that's a tough one.
Yeah, the senior citizens point is so important to keep in mind, because one, if they do make, even if it's a temporary attractive price offer, just not having to make that change, what Mark referred to, it's a sticky service. It's really hard to get rid of.
Yeah, I understand. We're trying to get rid of Dish now by streaming, and we're having we're having our own personal issues there.
Wait till you try to get rid of a landline. Good luck there.
Oh, they could do that in a microsecond, and it wouldn't bother me a bit.
Yeah, but I'm talking like people, my in-laws, they, for some reason, they feel compelled that they have to have a landline. So
Right.
that's the challenge, is getting the, older people to accept the technology.
Oh, you mean the telephone? I misunderstood.
Telephone, yeah, the telephone.
okay.
I mean, yeah.
Actually, with the problems that I've had with Verizon over the years, my landline was the best way to communicate. So
Hmm.
that's my problem.
But this was a good meeting. It was informative. I
Yeah.
liked it. That was a good job.
Well, next week we're going to get round 2 with Spectrum. So let's maybe we should exchange some emails about what we really want to pin them down on. You know, I sent Melinda a set of questions, and she lost my email for 3 weeks. So I have no idea what she's going to say, but hopefully we can address those too.
Yeah, one thing I kind of wish MCA would require it for anybody that's coming in, but I'd like to see them have one standard offer that they're talking to communities about. You know, you hear different stories when they're pitching, you know, to one town and then versus what they're saying to another. And,
Yeah.
you know, there's no way to stop it, but it makes it really, really hard to control that message, you know, to your people.
Right. Right. I mean, if they're going to offer us what they offered Robinson, I mean, that's a non-starter.
Did somebody said the town of Easton, was that already known that they think they're signing a bulk agreement?
I don't know.
I heard something today, but I didn't know anything about it, so I didn't have anything to add, but I heard that. All right, well, I gotta jump, folks.
Thank you for attending, Chris.
You're
Thank
very
you,
welcome.
Chris.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll have a good night.
You
You
too.
too.
Yeah.